Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
So I had a conversation with a friend a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me, we're just talking about life and just how things unfolded and so on and so forth. And he shared with me a story about a relationship he had when he was in school. And he said the relationship lasted 3 or 4 years. And he went on to share it was really kind of not a healthy relationship at all. And he, basically confided and said, if I'd listened to my friends, I would have just cut and run after 3 months. If I would listened to my own gut, I would have cut and run after 6 months. But I just hung in there trying to make it work, and you can go on and on and on, with the types of things that were happening. I won't get into all that here. But I was asking him, I said, and this was years ago. I was asking him if he was bitter about this person that he was in this relationship with. That was really kind of a horrible relationship. And he said, no. He said, in fact, I'm appreciative of it. Didn't appreciate the behavior, didn't appreciate the things that he went through, but he basically shared that, you know what? That person was a placeholder in my life. But for that placeholder, I probably would have moved on. I probably would have made other career decisions, moved out of town. Life could have gone in a million different directions. Had interviews, and he said interviews in New York and in Chicago, up in Michigan. He was just all over St. Louis. A lot of different opportunities he really passed on to stay behind and try and make this crappy relationship work. And it didn't. But shortly after it ended, he met his wife. And his wife is great. And they have a great relationship and been married for decades now. 3 great kids. That's kind of the point of this podcast, right? We have these networks out there, and maybe they're not just, this doesn't apply to romantic relationships, but just relationships in general. We're a lot of times we're so impatient to have the right thing right now. And it doesn't always work that way. I spent 6 years in public accounting as a tax consultant. I really discovered I was unhappy after about 2 years, but stuck around. And it just kind of put me in the right place in the right time to do something else. And so you might be in a job, and I'm not saying stick with that crappy job or the horrible relationship or whatever. But know this, that there's really things set up in your life. We don't really have control over it. And, I'm not trying to, if you want to attribute to God, fate, karma, whatever, that's fine. However you want to look at it. But sometimes we go through certain things and have certain relationships that prepare us for future things that are really good. I have a podcast. I had the opportunity to have a podcast probably back in 2011, 2012. I'm friends with Lewis Howes. He was kind of pushing me. You need to do this podcast thing. He was having a course on it. I was like, yeah, you know what? I've got so many things I'm doing in my business. And it probably wasn't the right time for a lot of reasons, just because I was busy with lots of other things and my family. But when the time was right, I was much more ready for it, had more guests that I could have brought on. And I could have started in 2012 and maybe got disillusioned with it and said, I really don't know anybody, and I've had 100 episodes or 50 and quit, right? This is episode 845 or something like that, and I have a whole stack of, okay, I need to talk about this, I need to talk about this, and I've got 4 or 5 people lined up to do interviews with. I don't know that I would have been ready for all that 10, 12 years ago. So these situations, we make decisions, and they're really kind of placeholders in our lives. We have networking partners. And we may not be totally enamored with the networking partner that we have, and you want to I'm going to cut and run from this person. It's not really serving me well. Don't act too quickly on that. Now, I'm not saying you need to put all your chips down on one particular person and just kind of hang in there. I mean, certainly you need to, you always need to be trying to improve your situation, right? But don't be so impatient that you might just, I don't want to say burn a bridge, or just, I've used the term already, cut and run. Just, okay, I'm done with this. I am totally done with this. Because you don't know what that person is holding a place for in your life. It could be something really awesome. And I have had conversations with people where it's like, okay, yeah, this really isn't doing it for me. Or I had relationships, this isn't really doing it for me. And it's so easy to say, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm totally done with this. But then all of a sudden that person comes forth, all because you've kept them in your life. And I'm not saying they need to be, a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3 contact, but they're kind of out there. And by keeping them in your world, they're kind of a placeholder for that great thing that's going to happen at some other point. I see that with respect to guests I've had on the podcast. It's easy to say, yeah, I'm done with this person. It's going nowhere. And then all of a sudden they're referring me somebody that are really great guests that are on this podcast. You just don't know how things are going to unfold. I mean, life is not linear, right? You kind of think it's going to be. I thought that when I got out of college, right? You go to college, you're going to get this job, you're going to get a promotion, get another promotion, get another promotion, you're going to be staying with the same company, you're just going to keep making more money and just keep getting greater titles. And, people who started 3 years after you are going to be subordinate to you, and people who started ahead of you, you're always going to report to. And it's nothing like that at all. It's not total chaos either. But there's many paths to get to where you're going. And so you need to look at the people in your life, and even though you might be a little bit disenchanted with what's going on, for what, maybe it's not a horrible relationship, maybe it's just a so-so relationship and you're looking for more. Maybe it's a job where it's like, oh, geez, I don't know where this is going. But you learn that one little thing that really catapults you to that next opportunity. You learned how to do an SEC filing, and all of a sudden you're running into somebody who wants to take their business public at some point, and you have those skill sets. You have that skill set that's really in high demand, which positions you perfectly to be in that situation. You just don't know. You just don't know. So be patient with your relationship, and just know that there are people in your life that are placeholders for other people who are going to come along. There are people in your life that are giving you skills, connections, confidence that are going to position you for that next person or next opportunity that comes along. And just be patient with it. Just be patient with it. It's I don't know how old you are listening. It doesn't really matter. But you're going to need new contacts. You're going to need new skills. We live in a society now where, life is not just about harvesting crops and learning how to trap animals. I mean, it's just, who knows what's coming next, right? We're in the age of AI. Who knows what that's going to open up? So you need to continually be out there and networking with people and continually try to build your skills and build your network. And the people who are with you now, good, bad, or indifferent, are people who are going to help you get there. And you need to be, much like my friend, you need to be appreciative of what the person now is bringing to you in the future.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.